intentional. It's treason. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Anytime you get anything from the government, it's an implied contract and brings you into their jurisdiction. Anytime you register for anything or make application for anything from the government, you're giving them a power of attorney to make legal determinations for you. I mean, think about it. Isn't that what you're doing? And that cop stops you on the road. He made some legal determinations right off the bat, okay? He said, well, there's a person. And that person made an illegal left turn. You see, didn't he do that? That's exactly what he did. And so how could he make a legal determination for you without representing you? I mean, think about it. He can't. You're making them competent in your affairs. You're telling them you're a person. You're converting yourself into a slave. All statutes are written very carefully, and most do not apply to members of the sovereignty. Matter of fact, there's really none, okay? Now, if you look at the verbiage on some of the stuff like murder and things like that, they wordsmith that stuff really good because they, you know, they do have authority, you know, there. But that's it. You know, common law offenses. That's it. Yes.
On capital crimes, there's always a price attached. It's a commercial thing because capital crimes and common law crimes, they have a value in dollars for each and every one of those, which makes it commercial.
They're all commercial, there's no doubt. That's the only thing they can operate in. And so I guarantee you, even if you're charged with murder, they're going to criminally convert your name and they're just going to go ahead and proceed. You know what I mean? They'll railroad you. And my attitude is they should, you know, if it's murder. But the bottom line is they know they don't have any authority but they still do it, you know. 99% of the time, the government is technically correct. They are. It's not up to the government to tell you that you're a member of the sovereignty. The government lawyers make up a statute that properly applies to those entities they have jurisdiction over. The burden is on us to assert our sovereignty. How many times do they tell you anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law? How many times do they say that if you don't assert your rights, you lose them? How many times do you hear that? If a member of the sovereignty gets unknowingly involved in something which operates as a contract by which he might lose his sovereignty, he's made a mistake of law and fact. And there's all sorts of case law on that. But the burden's on you to bring it up. If somebody comes up to you on the street and says, you owe me $50, if you pay it to them, then you must have owed it. But if they come up to you on the street and they say, you owe me $50, and you say, is there a contract here? Well, then all of a sudden everything's up for grabs, isn't it? But if they come up to you on the street, like the IRS comes up to you on the street, and they say, you owe us $50, and you say, yeah, but I filed last year. Think about that. What did you just do when you made that statement? You admitted the contract. You admitted the contract. You got to be, and that's what the purpose of this paperwork is to head them off right up front, tell them right up front, you don't have any authority over me, any more authority over me than a Walmart rent-a-cop. And they don't. But until you say it, until you say the words, whose duty is it to protect the Constitution? The courts have ruled that the government is not the protector of the Constitution. If the government is not the protector, then who is? It's up to we the people. And how do we do that? We do that by challenging what the government does through the courts and administratively. And that's what the procedure here does, okay? It's just between me and you, Mr. Bureaucrat. You know, it's kind of sad because I really shouldn't have to be doing this, but it's because of how many millions of people out here are totally clueless. Some of them probably want to be in the system. Some of them like being a slave, okay? Many of them don't have a clue about what's going on, and they're just dealing with it the best way they can. And so because of that, they've gone and there's so many of them out there that the courts have decided that they're just going to presume everybody's in it. And that's what they do. And so now the burden's on me to spend thousands of dollars serving them with this stuff so that I can be free. But it's worked too. It's worked. You know, and this is one thing I forgot to mention. When the state of Texas, when the Texas DPS came to see me, the FBI, what happened was they did it 100% correct, okay? Because think about this, the FBI was from downtown Dallas, right? And the DPS officer, he was from Garland, right? And I was out north of Sanger, okay, on the other side of Denton, okay, in an RV park. And they went, you know who brought them to see me? Was the Cook County Sheriff. That's right. And I hadn't noticed the Cook County Sheriff, because if I had him, then if he had brought me, I would have had him for perjury of oath, okay? But I hadn't, okay? I'd only noticed I'd noticed Fort Tarrant and Dallas, and I hadn't got to Cook County yet. But the point is they went and drove out there to, what's the name of the county seat? Huh? Gainesville. Is it Gainesville? They drove to Gainesville, got in a Cook County Sheriff's cop car, and got him to bring him to me. And it's a good thing they caught me at home, actually, but they did. And so I never even talked to the sheriff, but they came out in the county sheriff's cop car, and then they were talking to me, you know. But so they went out of their way. I mean, they wiped out that day probably. But yeah, really. But so, anyways, the interesting thing is that they did it right, because they knew. And as it is, I filed a criminal complaint against 3. Matter of fact, check the Texas Public Safety Commissioners. I'll bet you'll see the chairman and 2 of the deputy commissioners got removed, or will pretty soon. And the FBI, the special agent in charge of the FBI, I bet you he gets removed too. But anyways, I filed criminal complaints against them because I'd served them with my documents. One of the Texas Public Safety Commissioners either resigned or got removed previously, so I couldn't hold his feet to the fire. But there was 3 of them that were same ones that I had served previously, and so, you know, see what happens. But so the point is, though, is that they did it 100% correct. If I had have served the Cook County Sheriff, then I would have told him, that's part of my document, I demand that you protect me from all foreign agents, including FBI, DEA, CIA, okay? Those are all foreign agents. And then they would have gone to the Cook County Sheriff, and he would have said sorry, or should have said, sorry, I can't do that. He's under my protection. See what I'm saying? But what they did was correct, because they got him to bring him to me, and they knew, because what happened is U.S. Marshals, I used to work here in Fort Worth, and for Eaton, I worked on the Joint Strike Fighter program. I designed the hydraulic system for the thing. Anyways, what happened is I was filing criminal complaints against judges, and they didn't like it. Wah, wah, wah. Anyways, I was filing criminal complaints against some U.S. district judges in Arizona, and so they sent the U.S. Marshals to come and talk to me. And so when the U.S. Marshals came to talk to me, I mean, they fired me from Eaton. Just because these U.S. Marshals came to talk to me. And so they already knew that I've been to the Supreme Court twice. I'm in there now a 3rd time. They knew that they better have their ducks in a row. But so anyways, that's the way it goes. So keep moving. The burden is on us to know and understand the law and to assert our rights. So how do you regain it? Again, it's a foregone conclusion. They already know you're sovereign. Okay? All you have to do is say the words. Hey, is there a contract here? I'm the king. All contracts must be knowing, willing, and intentional. They know that there's not a shred of authority. None of the contracts entered into with the government by which you might lose your sovereignty are willing, knowing, or intentional. They're a nullity, that's right. They know it. All you got to do is bring up the issue, but the burden is on you. Stupid piece of junk. The sovereignty of the people is unalienable, means it cannot be alienated away. Imprescriptible means they can't pass some statute. In order to regain your sovereignty, you must assert your sovereignty. When you assert your sovereignty in this way, you build a case with evidence that you can use in court at a future date should you need to use so. Okay? So you're building an ironclad case. So you're going to be using Robert Savarese if you really want to have it like ironclad. You'll be using him because he's the chief judge for Nacogdoches County for the Republic of Texas. Or if you're over in Fort Worth, then Norman Sewell, who's the chief judge for Robertson County. You always, always, always use registered mail, okay? There's a whole bunch of reasons. Registered mail, you talk to any postal clerk, your registered mail is used for international commerce. I mean, think about it. You're going international. The land of Texas to the state of Texas. The state of Texas is a region in the District of Columbia, okay? So that's international. And it's kept under lock and key. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of reasons to use only registered mail. That's the only thing I ever use when I'm doing this stuff. The government attorneys may turn it over to a bureaucrat who may also respond off point. And if they do it to me. I file a criminal complaint against them. Am I going to let some pencil-neck bureaucrat make legal determinations for me? I mean, do you know who you are? If the government were to admit you're right, then they would be admitting to treason, extortion, genocide, all sorts of stuff, okay? If they're smart, they won't respond at all, okay? I have had some good responses. I had a judge in Johnson County, okay, send me a certified copy of his oath of office and surety bond, eh? I mean, that's a perfect response. That's like saying, I stand naked before you. You know what I mean? That's an absolute perfect response. He sent me a certified copy of his oath of office and surety bond. I mean, that's a perfect response. I had a sheriff in New York, what happened to the risk management department, sent me a letter. And that's a pretty good response too. And they said, we don't believe he's caused you any injury or something like this. You know what I mean? It's their insurance. I mean, that's a pretty good response too. It took me a while to read through the legal jargon that they were coming up there and get the summary of the whole thing, but it was their risk management department that sent me the letter. Eh? But that's perfect. That's a good response. They will never, ever, ever admit anything, okay? I mean, you're accusing them of just being the lowest form of life there is. If the government attorneys will probably not respond at all, and that's probably their best course of action. If they don't, they've acquiesced, okay? In order to be true sovereign, you must be self-reliant. You must not only